I was at a yard sale, get out of the wind, and this was out front. Little beat up little Suzuki 80. It's missing a bunch of components real quick. I can see the shifter's not connected, the hub's floating in the back. Got tie wraps holding the exhaust on. Wires are hanging out of it. It does not have a shifter on the edge of it. But they're asking $250. I paid $150 for it. It seems like it worked out good. They thought it was too much money at $250 also. Tires are dry rotted. So let's go bring this back to the shop, see what we can go do to fix her up. Right now I have my Cougar, so I'm going to come back with a different vehicle, so I do not have the heart to put it in my trunk and beat that up. Say hello to my little friend. That fits in there a lot better than it would in the trunk of the Cougar. Well, it's a few days later, and it's been sitting over here in the corner. We're getting ready to start on it, and apparently it has an incontinence problem. That is oil, not gas. Oh well. We'll go to the list. Let's get her over on the operating table and let the games begin. Let's get the S in, up in the air. That should do it. Get a better idea of what we have to work with. It's in one of the gears. We could probably throw vice grips on that. See if we can get it popped in neutral. Let's go try that. Yeah, so we can clamp on some vice grips and see what we have. Hopefully the shifter broke off because it got sloppy. The teeth got sloppy on it. Started slipping, and then they drill a hole and they put a bolt in it, and then that breaks. So that should be first gear. That should be neutral. All right, we got neutral. We got first, neutral, second, third, fourth. Feels like it goes through all the gears. That's a good sign. And neutral. Back wheel sounds horrible. Let's go look at some other stuff. Let's get a assessment we have for condition. I already see right now it's missing the bolt for the carb. The clamp down on it, so probably somebody had that carb on there again. I think it was like a 10-year-old kid that had it. Judging by the size, right? So that's whacked. This, I don't know if this was a key switch. I'm not sure what was here, or an on-off switch. Don't know what's happening with that. It's like the lever's broken off for the fuel. It's not on the end of it. Chain guard's missing. That's stuffed in as the tensioner for the rear chain. Tie wraps, tie wraps, tie wraps. Now it's a neutral. Could probably give it a. The pop doesn't sound terrible. It feels like it's got a decent amount of compression. My only concern really is, does it have a hole in the case somewhere? All the oil pissed out. I don't see anything at the top. Swing arm bushing does not look terrible. It's not flopping around. Front seals, either there's no oil in them whatsoever or they're not leaking, so that's a good sign. I don't see it bent. Looks pretty straight. The fender's been cut in the front. It does have that cover. It does have oil in the reservoir. Whether that's working or not, who knows. All right, let's go cut some of these tie wraps off and get some of this crap out of our way. We'll get a better idea what's happening underneath. Again, we're still missing all the leverage for the brake drum in the rear. Suspect. What's that? She does look, oh, it's got a rip right there. That's for that guy. There's nothing holding the fender on. That's like up and over the hill here. And more tie wraps. I think the exhaust is being held on by a tie wrap too. Alright. Right there. It's definitely lost some hardware over the course of its life, huh? Got one bolt in the head and one's missing, so I think it's probably got one ripped out of the cylinder head. See if we can get that possibly out of our way. We'll go check for spark will be the next thing. Let's see what we got for. It looks like the bolt broke off. They put another bolt in, and then that broke off. It's just re-drilled and recut. Yeah. Let's get that one out of there. Hopefully this one's not too boogered up. You don't have much meat to work with in there anymore. Come on. There you go. Alright, now we could probably get a light in there. We can go take a peek and see the side of the piston. Yeah, see what we could see. Got to crank that a little bit, get the rings down. Doesn't look terrible though. I don't see anything standing out that's showing it's totally blown out. See if we can get that to. There. Now we can see right up inside it. You can see right into the jug. Yeah, I don't see anything terribly damaged. I got too much light on you. It doesn't look too bad though. Good. That, on the other hand, is going to be an issue with as the bottom one. Look. Yeah, it looks, because this should have studs coming out of it, not bolts to begin with. All right, let's go get the plug out of it and see if we got spark. And before we use spark, let's get the last remaining pieces off. Just take a look at what we got happening. The gas tank's connected. There's no gas in it though. Dribble. I don't see any damage on the frame anywhere, so that part's good. It doesn't look like it was crashed real hard. Okay, now we can get to the plug and stuff easier. Yeah, it's tight. All right, let's go check it. Yeah, it's looking a bit fouled, huh? Or definitely on the rich side anyway. Yep. Let's go throw it on. See if it makes any sparks for us. Oh yeah. Good. Not quite sure what's going on with all those wiring on the other side, what that was connected to. The other thing I see on the handlebars is a kill for spark. I don't see anything that runs the headlight, so maybe that was just a headlight switch. We'll worry about that later, I guess. And what do you want to do? Put a little bit of fuel in her, see if she fires over. Real quick before we do that, though, let's go pop that air cleaner off to make sure there's not a big mouse nest or leaves or anything that we're going to go suck in. Especially if the bore looks okay. Think it's got a filter in it at all? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's going to have a screen of a filter. Let's see what we get. You got a screen. Come on. Alright. Most of one. It's deteriorating. But there was something in there. I'll just get that right out. Looks like it was sunk in water at some point too. This little 50 to 1 premix will give a little bit of that and right in the chamber. The choke is on, we're going to want that off. Let some air get through it. Yeah, you do it by hand or I gotta climb up there to give it a kick? Let's try it by hand first. All right, that part's good. We're good with that. We just got to fix all the bits and busted stuff. Probably the next thing I'd be really concerned about is where the crank is leaking, where all that fluid's coming out. Let's go see if it even has anything in it yet. Be nice if that was gas, but it wasn't. That's not unthreading. You got to pull it up. There you go. Should have a sight window in it somewhere. Let me go clean some stuff up. We'll get in there and get a look at what we got. And usually there's a sight glass right about here somewhere. I see fluid. Can't see down into it though. Somewhere there's got to be a tell. Two-stroke doesn't. The engine itself is not concerned with oil. It doesn't use oil for the crankcase. That's two-stroke that takes care of this part of it. But the gearbox over here to run the gears uses fluid. I see a screw's missing from that cover. Right, let's go get this. Let's get this stuff off of here. Get a better look at this too. A little bit of mud. I bet you this thing was just like left in second gear when the shifter broke and just kind of rode around in second gear. I think our next best bet is actually to hit it with a pressure washer. Just might as well finish taking the remaining tie wraps that are holding things together, and we could address each piece as we put it back on a little bit better. I don't think that, yeah, it's not even bolted to it. We got wires for the tail light. Let's get them unplugged. Them out. Kind of come out of there. Getting smaller, isn't it? Now it tells its tail. See the rear swing arm? How it is not straight. How the back wheel is not straight. Could be just maybe the wheel itself. But it is racked. It's like that. You're looking at it. She's a peach. That, or is it just a shock that's screwing you up? I think the shock is on an angle, doesn't it? No, it's way out. You can definitely tell the wheel's kicked. You look where the direction the chain is going to the engine and the way the wheel is kicked over. Let's go see if it might be. Looking at the space there, it's just starting to show. Oh yeah, and that's all the way back on this side. They just got the wheel all kittywampus. I can protect its bits a little bit. I'm gonna throw a rag in a bag. Rag in a bag. Shove that in the intake and keep water out. I'm gonna go put this cover back onto to keep the magneto dry. Yeah, we got on our side. Let's see if there's any. Probably got a little cleaner in there, huh? I don't see any immediate hits. I see gasket material or sealant popping out of there. I think we should throw some oil in it. It looks wet all down in this area right here. Let's go throw some oil in it and flip it back on its side, see if you can see where it's dripping from. As long as it's not missing from the middle here, I think we probably have to take this cover off and reseal it. Maybe right there it's leaking, looks a little wet. But it left a good sized puddle, so it should happen fairly quickly. I'm going to say our fill plug is probably that screw right there. We got to take that out and fill it up to that level, and it starts pouring out of that screw. And no float, no sight glass. Let's go pull that plug out. That should be the, actually that wasn't even tight. I don't think that's the leak though. It was sitting on its side kickstand. Let's go lean it towards us, see if we get any fluid to come out of it. Oh yeah. So the oil level's pretty full. I actually wonder maybe it was a little over full. I was expecting nothing to come out of that. Let's let that sit. We're going to go take a paper towel. I cleaned everything off with brake clean. We'll put a clean paper towel underneath it. We'll put the bike, I will leave the bike on its side like it was, and we'll see if we can find any drips, and maybe we'll attack the carburetor or something while we're waiting. The front clamp is already missing. Well, it's missing the screw that holds it. That back one was not tight at all. And let's see if we can get the slide out of it. That's pretty good. It didn't come out all chalky. Let's see if we can wiggle our carb out of there. I don't think there's anything else connected. I am going to take a second and unbolt the air cleaner housing, back that off out of our way, and that'll be easier. That way you don't have to struggle getting it back on. It's got to come off anyway, so. There we go. Might be easier to get that carb out now. Yeah. I don't want it one side or another. We got the oil feed line. That is going to piss oil on us. It should piss oil on us, let's put it that way. That's the premix oil. We'll put that up in the air. That should have oil kind of dripping out of it. It's not. Be good if that was our leak, huh? Yeah, there might not even be anything in that tank. It might just be a stain that we're looking at. We'll worry about that later. For now, we can do a pre-mix. Let's go take the carb. We'll go around the bench. We'll pop the bowl off of it and see what the insides of that look like. The outside of it looks pretty clean. Might get rid of that oil injection altogether. And we'll just run. Gotta keep the fluid in it. We'll just run pre-mix. Okay. Yeah, a little cruddy. It's got water floating around in it, and water that's been floating around in it for a while. That's not from pressure washing it. Let's get a little glass to pour that in. Yeah, it's had some scuzz in the past. You can see all the corrosion that's been on there. It's like it had corrosion, and somebody went and cleaned it at one point. And you can see all that rusty, crappy water in the bottom of it. A little rusty puddle. And on that note, let's get the pin out of it. Well, that's not factory. That is the stop screw for the idle that the slide kind of runs on. I don't think they came with that stock. Yeah. I think this bike had a slight issue with hardware. Let's get rid of this stupid thing. Get rid of that. And let's get the, I believe this is going to be the idle air fuel mix screw. Which have a spring on it. That might be broken off on the end. Might be, I'm not sure. Go get them. That should be a spring in there that comes out. That carb might be totally boogered. Let's get the choke out of it. And I'm not quite sure what that was supposed to be either. Possibly that might be broken off. The pin might be broken off in any of that, or that might be okay. I'm not sure yet until I do a little bit more probing. Let's go get it, like I said, the choke out, and I'll scribe to get that. Boy, that does not want to come out of there. Which is not a good sign. That's just supposed to be sitting in there. I wonder if that, there it goes. And what was the last one? Oh, the choke. We're going to get the choke off of it. Sounds like a four-wheeler's going by. Well, I say we take it, we soak it in the carb cleaner, and we see what we get. I think we may want to try to find, hopefully I got some parts for, carb parts for the smaller carburetor. We definitely got to get rid of that wood screw. Is in there. This whole thing should lift right out. There we go. It's a plunger that opens and closes a circuit for choke. And I need a big screwdriver to get the main jet out. Hopefully you can push down the center. Sometimes you can get the emulsion tube out. If not, we're not going to worry about it. Use a Phillips, so it won't dent it as much. I'm going to leave it alone. There's an emulsion tube that's the length of this inside here. Sometimes they get crudted up. It actually looks like there's a washer on the end of it. And it has crap around it. There you go. Yeah, it's corroded in there pretty good. Try pushing on it one more time. Sometimes you could do more. Actually, you know what we could do? We could drive it right from the top. Let me go get something that'll fit right down inside there. We can give a good push on it. Drive that out of there. We got a deep socket. It looks like it'll fit around it. See if we can get a little drive on it. If it's not going to move, I'm not going to force it because I'm just going to trash the carburetor. I think it's just so much corrosion around it. Unfortunately, that's up inside here. There's a bunch of pinholes where it kind of draws the air and fuel through and kind of mixes together. And that's not happening. See if we can get the... Maybe after we soak it, it may help things a little bit. I'm also going to go take a little bit of time. We're going to go scrape some more of the crap that's up around that edge. We'll get some of that off of there. I'll try it a little bit more off camera. Bought a baby ultrasonic cleaner, half the size of the other one that I had. Just for the size capacity. I'm going to use the other one for other things. power. This one still has a power switch that works, I think. Where are you? I know you're in there. Let that cook for about 45 minutes, 450 degrees. Let's see if we got any tells going on here. I think that's water right now, those stains that are on it. What if the drain plug's loose? That are right there. That looks a little suspect. Hey, we'll let it go a little bit more. Yeah, it's cooking. I think we should look into the disaster of this rear wheel. I see only 2 bolts holding the sprocket on. We have no brake assembly on there. The rod keeps it around, and then the linkage that goes up to the foot pedal. Let's go get all that off of there. See if there's even any brakes in there. What's your guess? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say there's nothing in there. Had no cotter pin in it. Looks like a homemade spacer. Had a it had a bearing on the other side for a spacer on the outside. What do you think? Roll, please. Ah, I had shoes. Good. I don't know if they're any good, but it does have a set in there. Let's go throw some. But we'll clean them up anyway. Go look into the rest of the wheel. That's missing a bushing or something. Something's wrong there. That shouldn't be like that. My guess is a bushing missing out of there. That's just a guess though. We have one bearing. Feels okay. That one feels right. Only 2 of the 4 bolts are in the hub. Looks like they go right through the center of it. Yeah, they may or may not have threads in there. We'll see on those. And they actually have little keepers that keep it locked. It looks like they're broken off, so they may have just fallen out. Hopefully they just fell out and did strip out. Sprocket's kind of, the teeth are rolling over on the sprocket, so it's on its way out. Gotta get the adjusters out of it. They look like they need a little bit of love too. The swing arm itself, I'm trying to tell if it's bent or not. If it is, we'll just beat it back to submission, but I know it's on an angle. It looks like this is kicked like that. Or it's the way it's supposed to be, I don't know, because they kind of do a pattern like that. That looks a little hammered, doesn't it? Like it shouldn't be that way. That side looks flat. Not a ton of play in it. That's good. Time to go shopping in my pile of junk. We are going to look for anything that can resemble the parts that we are missing. There's a lot of Honda stuff. You need a shifter, right? There's one of those. That's a kickstart. We need parts for the back brake. We need a lever that goes that thing. Again, this is, I think this is Honda, I don't even know. It's yard sale stuff, you know. Actually looks like a moped. It's got 2 sprockets on the inside of it there. Maybe we can use that brake lever, this thing. If we have to, we can cut it to length. We'll drag that. What else do we need? This is a Honda Trail 70, which is a parts bike for another one. One of the other ones that we did, actually. There's one more to go. But it has the wrong back rim on it. And I am wondering, that'd be nice if that was the same setup, right? Knock them all over in a row. Look like the same rim to you? Close, isn't it? Well, we'll keep an eye on that. If we find out the rim is junk, we'll possibly, size-wise, we can make that fabricate to fit on there. We wanted to look for carburetor. That's what the other thing was. At least if we can find the screw that stops the slide. That one. Dig through here, we'll grab a couple of pieces. See if there's any more. I had a box that was just carburetors, all by itself. There it is. A lot of these are lawnmower, that's all lawnmower stuff. You'd have a slide in the top of it. Another shifter, we'll grab that. Actually, and another shifter. Tell you one thing though, that screw is somewhat evasive. Every carburetor here is missing it. There's one. It's got a thumb screw on it. See if that one will do it. The rim that was up there was a 14. This is a 12. That's not going to be the same deal. And something else that's missing. So between the bearings in the rear, there should be a, so you got a bearing, one finger here's a bearing, one finger here's a bearing. In between, if you're going to go tighten the bolt down, you would crush both bearings in. So generally there's a spacer that touches on the inner race so that when you crank down on the wheel, it just kind of tightens down on those spacers and there's no preload on the bearing. Well, there is no spacer inside there. That's another thing that's missing. It's probably why it had that bearing as a spacer. It probably burned up at some point. That is one that was in there, and then they used it for a shim and et cetera, et cetera. So they got to come out of there. We got to go find some kind of spacer so that when we crank, bolt down on it, they are not pinching on each other. That's probably what happened to these guys being all bent up. He couldn't tighten the bolt up because it would jam the wheel up, so he had to leave the axle loose, and it kept pulling the wheel, and it probably cocked that wheel on an angle. That's why he did that, because he couldn't tighten down on the bolt. So it was everything was trying to rely on that for the pressure of the chain. When you get on the throttle trying to pull the wheel forward, you couldn't tighten the bolt, so it was crushing down on that little spacer on the end. They've revealed themselves slowly over time through investigation. Let's see if that support bracket will do anything for us. Roughly 11. So if we come off of that point right there, 11. Actually might be a little on the long side. We have to go from that to that. So 11 is going to put us right about there. Normally it's about something like that. Might be able to use it. You can always cut a little bit out of it, right? And drill another hole. You can just kind of shorten it up and drill another hole. We use the hardware, use that hardware. Hopefully it's the same size. About 45 minutes later. Let's see how things look. Warm, I can tell you that. We'll go rinse them off with water. Clean them up. Put that back together. Kind of giving it, I don't know, maybe a 60% survival rate. I'm afraid that center is going to be corroded beyond. I tried tapping it out even afterwards. I just couldn't get it out of there. So all depends on how cruddy that is, I guess. I think I'm having a blonde moment. I wonder if I was driving it the wrong way. Well, there's your problem. Many of you were yelling at me. You're going the wrong way. See if we can get that the rest of the way out of there. Oh yeah. She was hurting. So that was never going to go past the muster. That is just totally plugged, clean, solid nastiness. Yeah. Let's go hit that with a wire wheel, get some of that crap off of there, and get a better look. That's a little better. Actually do what it's supposed to. Those little holes can actually breathe. And we actually got one more. There we go. It'll take another second or two to look at it better. Just trying to rush through it. And there's the other one. So the other one's the main. This is probably the idle. You can see how not plugged, but they're definitely dirty. Get that one cleaned out. I think I might go soak it again. You scrub out some of that. She's smoking. That's all just the aluminum that's breaking down. Uh-oh, you did it. I got everything back together on the carb, no problem. Get everything picked and stabbed and cleaned out best as I can. But I do not have that throttle stop, the idle speed. And I found a carb kit from another bike that I had. And this is what was taken out of the old carb. It's the closest one I have. I do believe the threads are the same size, but the ID hole in the center is too small. I thought about trying to take the pin down to make it fit. Instead, I decided to, why don't we just bore out the hole to make that fit. The center. See if that'll go in. There it goes. It could have even just been damaged because they had this. That's what was in there. So anyway, we got rid of that. Let's go get ourselves a regular screwdriver. Let's go run that in. I'm sure it beat the threads up somewhat. We just need that to be able to protrude, and it does. That goes up against the slide. The slide is the piece that goes in here. It's still on the bike right now. Let's go blow out some of that crap. Just throw those anywhere. So that has a spring on it to hold tension. Keep it from backing out. You're supposed to be able to, reach down with your fingers and be able to turn that. And it looks like it'll do just fine. And so what that does, the slide goes in there, and on the side of the slide there's a little bit of a ramp that screw runs into, and it raises and lowers it and just allows a little bit of a window at idle for it to go through. I'll show you. Yeah, look right on the slide right here. There's that ramp I'm talking about. So the screw runs into that, and it raises and lowers the throttle. This is how much air let in, this is how much fuel is let in, and it meters that in. You can see it got a little beat up from that sheet metal screw they had in there. I think it'll be fine though. The other thing is, look at that bowl. Look how pitted that is. It's about halfway through. So sometime this thing really sat and got a bunch of corrosion down in the center of it. I think it'll be okay now. Again, as long as fuel doesn't pee through. I've actually seen them where they've rotted all the way through the casing of it. Hey, go check on that oil leak. And it looks like definitely making a good puddle underneath it. You see, like it's all wet right through here, and it runs down, and it physically is dripping off of the drain plug. I don't think the drain plug is leaking. I think it's just all running right down and off of it. You can also see over here too. It's on the side of the foot peg crossover. So I'm saying, judging by the fact that rubber is sticking right out of it, I have a feeling that this is where our issue is, right on the case right here. It's probably leaking, and then why it's wet up here is probably just that it's soaked up. And what do they call that? Capillary action, which drawn up here. I actually think it's probably right in this area that it's leaking. I run those screws and that rubber right there. That's the fill, and it's wet up around here, but we already know the fluid level's below that, so it can't be coming out of that. I think we just go take this whole cover right off and see what we got. Might not be any gasket there. We might be able to do the same thing, just get some right stuff, let it set up, and crank that back down. So kickstart's got to come off. You should probably take the cable off for the clutch. I want to got a pan to go drain the oil, so you can go put a wrench on it, and that's what I found. So maybe we're going to recheck that. We're going to go we'll crank down on it, grab the right wrench, tighten that down, and retry it again. Make sure the plug just wasn't loose. That might be it. Yeah, sometimes it's just the obvious things that get you. While we're at it, probably wouldn't hurt to check on the screws too, right? Yeah, they could all use a good little extra. Get on there. Oh, that one's loose. Totally. That one's really loose. And a couple of the upper ones were, yeah. Might be help it out. Looks like that one's, even after cleaning it, got a little bit. Yeah, several leaks. I think the next problem we should probably deal with is that upper hole is definitely all egged out of all different kinds of shapes and sizes, and it's just a mess. The bottom one, I think we can get a tap in there. The top one, I wish I had a helicoil. We can kind of mill that hole straight and tap it and put a helicoil in there, but I do not have anything that small. So I'm thinking maybe we'll just try and tap it and see if we can get some threads on it with something larger, and we'll come back with a stud come out of it, and we could probably open up the hole on the exhaust pipe for it to fit through. Let's give it a shot, see what happens. Can't mess it up anymore, right? Famous last words. There's nothing. It doesn't look like very much material to work it with. Yeah. It's an 8x125 tap. And get that blown out. We'll get something on there. See if we can get that tap to cut us some threads. It actually pops out on the other side. There's like fins behind it. There's a space, not the cylinder, but there is some room behind it, so we can actually kind of punch through the hole a little bit. Let me get something to put on that. I'll go for a drill. I'll make a 1/4 inch extension on it. Run it again. Let's see if we get any threads. Yeah, it looks like we got something to work with. Hey, you see where it bottomed out on the other side. All right. Let's see if we can get something. What I'd really like to do is run that in and then cut the head off and put a nut on the outside and use it as a stud, because you really want, you don't want to be, now they're going to get it with it. You can get it. I know you want me to stop, but if it's not going to tighten up, it's not going to tighten up. Actually, that might be good. So what we can do, you might have to get a little longer bolt. I'm going to cut the head right off, get a nut behind it, so that when you're tightening it down, so what happens when you're dealing with aluminum that's soft like this, and the reason why you want a stud, not just put a bolt in it, the stud, you're threading it in without pulling on the threads. When you are trying to crank down, like say crush on a surface, and you're running the threads in, it takes the aluminum and pulls it out. But if you're able to run it in ahead of time and then put a nut and it's steel on steel, all the support is staying there. You're not moving the steel on the aluminum and having it trying to rip out. It holds itself much better when you try to just draw a nut in on the stud instead of the bolt drawing in on the aluminum. I don't know if that made sense. Probably could have said that a little bit better, but that's what we're going to go with. Spinning what it had, right? Which was nothing. So the bottom one, we're going to go see what it had a bolt in it. I may have to just go clean that one up a little bit, but I think that one's much easier to work with than what we had on top. So I got an Allen head, Allen bolt. Put a nut on it. I guess what we'll do is we'll run that in as far as we can get it, and then we'll come back with hopefully a whiz wheel. We can get one in there. And we'll cut off what's left. We'll run the nut off to clean up the threads. And that should be our stud. Yeah, as long as it doesn't rip out. I'm trying to get as tight as possible. That feels pretty good right there. Won't push our luck. So you can get a cut wheel in there. We'll cut that off. Just did the same thing to the bottom one, no different. Again, it fits a little bit better. Problem is now we need an O-ring or a gasket or seal, however you want to call it, a metal O-ring to seal off the inside of that. And I do not have the correct one that goes in there. Closest one I had in my stash was this one. It's a little on the large side. My light is flipping out. But let's try cutting it, and we're reducing it into a circle. Let's see if we can get that to fit in there. It'll just have a little cut that's in the side of it. That's a pretty big distance to shrink down. It doesn't even fit between the studs. Yeah, let's cut it, see what we get. Actually, we'll leave it. Yeah, let's see if we can kind of shrink that. I wonder if we should get like a socket or something. Maybe we'll try rolling it around a socket. Get it to kind of be a circle, not an oval. A spark plug socket. I know it's way smaller than it needs to be, but I figure it's going to spring back on us. At least it's soft, huh? It's like a long oval side right there. Let's give her a... It doesn't spring back, kind of stays where it is. Maybe we should get a socket that's closer to the right size. Let's give her a little bit of... How do we do this? Look like a circle to you? Letters. Number 6. Actually, I think I eyeballed it pretty good. We're gonna go cut it right there. Kind of mush that into shape. If I get a hammer and tap on it. One size fits all. Let's go check it out. Huh? Even has a little pressure to hold it in there. That's good. And it's slightly proud, which is what you want, because when the pipe goes on it, it'll crush down on it. Looks like we got about a 1/16 of an inch sitting proud of the flange. Good. The upper hole was already drilled out to a larger size, so I didn't have to screw with that. Got the top is in the wrong spot. Yeah. Okay. Once you got enough room for our nuts, we'll grow up. Yeah. I get them on there. Yeah, a little shallow on the bottom one. Leave that loose a little bit. Got to get an upper bolt started on the pipe before I crank them down. Let's see if you can get those suck down. I got the upper bolt in. I should be crushing that piece under there. I don't want to push my luck. Call that right there. You want to get that? Get that bottom one just a little bit more. Yeah, we're gonna. All right, we're stopping. Call that for the win. I don't see anything dripping quite yet. I'm sure the drain plug being loose did not help. We'll let that sit overnight. Getting kind of long in the video, so maybe what we'll do, we're not going to get the whole thing finished, but we'll throw the carburetor on it and maybe hook some fuel up to that. We'll fire it up, see how the carb made out and how the engine is. Maybe, you know, bump it through the gears. We still have the rear wheel to rebuild, and there's a busted screw for the gas tank and wires and, you know, the kind of stuff. So we'll leave that for another one, but for now, go get that carb on there, see what it says. Another bolt that was missing was on that clamp. Gotta go find something for that. Get that slide back in the carb. So I was talking about, and I hit the throttle. You can see how it opens up, but there's still like an air gap underneath it. And then that's your idle speed. And with that set screw that you have going in from the side, you run that out. That gap will close down. You run that in. Really shouldn't do it that way, but I'm trying to give the example. You can see that that gap is open further, and then as I run it out, you see that gap close down. So that's your idle speed, controlling it with that thumb screw. So it's got the airbox on it, so it's not going to be tunable or completely tuned. But it should be able to run. We're just filling the float bowl right now. And hopefully it all stays in. I think that's got it. And we are filled about 2 inches from the top. And we got a little screwdriver there. We can adjust the idle air fuel mix if we need it. Let's get you backed up a little bit and give her a couple of kicks. And throw it in the wheel chock and tie the handlebars down just so it doesn't go flopping around too bad. Let's see what we get. We're going to need choke. Where is the choke? It's on your side. I believe that should be on. How many kicks? At least one. Go 5. Stay running. That went through the gears. That should be in top gear right there. I'll play that's in that, huh? But it went through all the gears. That's good. Hopefully that part's good. We won't know until we put some pressure on the ground. It used up the fuel, and as it starts using the fuel up in the car, it starts running leaner and leaner. So that's the idle started coming up. You started hearing it scream a little bit. It seems like it's okay. Everything else seems like it's holding out all right. We don't have a muffler for it. Might be able to find something out off of something else. Well, I'm pretty happy with how far we got so far. It seems like it's a decent drivetrain. I don't see anything so far standing out. And as a sore thumb, saying that something terribly wrong with it. Until you put the back wheel on it and ride it, though, it's hard to say what the gearbox is, what the condition of that stuff is in, clutch is in, so that's still to be determined. But I think we got the exhaust tightened up pretty good. Oil leak, we're gonna go find out. I'm gonna move that back out from underneath it, and we'll let the paper towel sit overnight and see if we get any more drips coming out of it. We still got the rear wheel to rebuild. We have a bunch of cables to get straightened out. That rear swing arm, if it's bent, to be addressed. Oil leak, if that's an issue. Plastics. Gas tank has got a bolt stripped out for the mount for the gas tank, or actually snapped off right above the muffler there. That's broke off. And whatever else we're gonna go find as far as we move forward. But I think for this one, I think we're gonna go call it quits. And soon to be part 2. So if you want to see the rest of it, come back and take a peek. We should have that one up, not much further than when this video went up, usually, the following weekend, possibly. And till then, I'd like to thank all you for hanging out with me, doing a bit of wrenching, a little bit of fun in the garage. It's yard sale season, so some of this weird stuff is starting to come out. And we'll have some fun with it. Guys, till next time, I'll see you.